Hi, I'm Dr. Henry Smith. I am a certified management accountant, a certified fraud examiner, and a certified controls specialist. And I am also the instructor of the upcoming forensic accounting class that we are about to offer here at Otterbein. My purpose today is to talk a little bit about forensic accounting and to explain the differences between auditing and forensic accounting techniques and skills. We are getting ready to offer a forensic accounting course that will become a senior level course for the undergraduate program in accounting, and also one of the electives in our fraud series of fraud courses at the MBA level. And that brings up the question, what is forensic accounting? And I've been asked that a lot of times by various people. There's a simple definition of it and a simple difference really between auditing and forensic accounting that I will try to explain. Auditing involves the certification of financial statements of the entity. It is done by normally an external auditor, a certified public accountant, who looks at the economic transactions and activities that the firm has encountered during the period he is auditing, and he compares the way they were handled with the way they should have been handled according to the Financial Accounting Standards Board standards, and then he looks at any material differences that might occur from one to the other and highlights that, or hopefully there aren't any, and he then can certify the financial statements. A forensic accountant has a different mission in life. He is not there to audit an entity. He is there to resolve financial matters that may appear to be in contradiction with what should have happened, might contain fraud, but he is there to determine and then present that information in the form that is acceptable to the standards of the court system, the legal system, in case something ends up in the courts. Auditors are trained accountants, and they conduct an analysis of the financial records, normally based on a risk assessment developed of that entity, and then a use of sampling techniques to determine how large a sample they should look at to obtain a fair representation of the financial statements being presented by the company. Forensic accountants apply special skills in both accounting and investigative techniques and everything else that they have been exposed to determine if there are items that should be investigated. Normally they will concentrate not across the financial statement spectrum, but in areas where they know that there is a greatest possibility of fraud being committed. They are looking for fraud when they approach this, and in many cases they do not apply sampling techniques as auditors do. Instead, they will investigate or look at all of the files in a particular area that they can see or can be made available to them. In kind of a short, simple summary, the financial accounting auditors follow an audit plan, and they determine results based on that. The forensic accountant follows wherever he wants to go in investigating, looking for fraud. And as I said, normally he will not use a sample method. He will investigate or look at all of the available records and pursue that. One of the key differences between the two is while both the auditor and the forensic accountant have a good background in accounting and know what the financial statements should look like, the forensic accountant has got to have the ability, additional abilities, to be able to think outside the box, to come up with how could I do something in this particular area, what could be done, and how could we cheat a company or create a fraud scheme and follow through on that. One of the things that I will point out here also is in talking to a lot of the recruiters for the national and regional audit firms who would be employing graduates from Otterbein College or any other university. Forensic accounting is a course that they look for on the resume or on the transcript of any of the people they consider hiring. Not so much for them to be forensic accountants, but for them to be aware of what a forensic accountant is capable of doing, so that if they are serving as an auditor and they run into something that's kind of a red flag, they know enough to stop and say, let me turn to my supervisor, let me get a forensic accountant in here to look at this, and let me see if there's any reason for them to investigate further. An example of the differences, which may illustrate the difference between auditing and forensic accountants' work, would come in, an auditor coming in to review the accounts payable and to look at the invoices that a company had received based on purchase orders they had sent out, items they had bought, and then the payment of that bill. A person doing an audit would normally, based on a statistical sampling, determine that I need to see 100 of these document sets, and that will be more than sufficient for me to determine whether this is fairly being represented or not. I asked for 100, and normally I would ask for them by sequence number or by a specific block of checks that were written. The person providing me the documents comes back and gives me 96 and says, we can't find 4 of these that you wanted. Normally I'm going to look at him and say, I need to see 100, go get me 4 more and bring them back. I want to look at the purchase order that was sent to the company. I want to look at the invoice that company sent me, and then I want to look at the record of the payment for that invoice that I received. That's what the normal audit would do. Once I've seen 100, I have met the requirements established in our audit plan, and unless there are material misstatements, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. The forensic accountant would come in and look at this and say, I'm concerned about payment and the possibility that fraud might exist by us paying people who are not providing a service to us. I would like to go look at your invoices. Let's go down and look at all the files and see what you ordered that has been received, we have an invoice for, and we have paid. And I'll just go through these. I know there are a lot of files, but I'll just thumb through them and I'll pull some out and we can talk about those later. And as we go through, anything that is a copy of an invoice, I'm pulling out and setting aside. And anything that is a nice, clean looking original invoice that I've received, I'm setting aside. And I'm checking the others to make sure that we did order the item, it was received, we did receive the invoice, and we have paid it. When we finish that, I'm going to hand you back all of the copies of invoices and say, these are not originals. I only want to see originals. I'm not interested in a copy of it. So go get the originals wherever they might be, or come back and tell me why you can't find them, and we'll take it from there with regard to where this invoice came from. And these others are nice, clean, fresh invoices. They don't look like they came in the mail because they're not creased. They weren't folded and put in an envelope. And I'm kind of wondering where they might have gotten into our file system. I noticed some of the companies from there are from states as far away as 5 or 6 from here, so they certainly weren't hand delivered. But I want to know a little more about those, and we'll take it from there. The other thing that I would do in this as a forensic accountant is take a look at the running the addresses of all of the original clean-looking invoices and the addresses of all the copies that I have to see if these might all be coming from a central location or one particular mailing address, or 2 or 3, but the preponderance coming from those. And then while we're running databases, we might as well run the invoice vendor system database against the employee database for the company. And let's see if we get the same address showing up between the two. We may have an employee who's sending us invoices and we're paying him. And it would just be interesting to note if that possibility exists. And kind of a summarization with regard to the remarks I've made. The forensic accounting course that will be taught here at Otterbein starting in the spring of 2010 will give you an insight into a lot of the topics that I've talked about and go further. It is not intended to make you an expert forensic accountant, but it is intended to expose you to the capabilities and the thought processes that a lot of forensic accountants go through. If you're still interested and you want to know more, follow the links on the web page that you're looking at, and take a look at when the courses will be offered and at what level, both graduate and undergraduate.